What's up, you bouncing birders? This is Corey Porter with Shenron's Lair, back with another deck profile for you. Today we're going to be looking at the Set 9 Yellow Jiren leader with all the new Set 10 stuff that's came out. We've also got stuff from the expansion set that I think really kind of hypes up the Jiren leader. He's one of those leaders that I think is actually like really good that doesn't get as much hype as he possibly deserves. He's not necessarily like a generic leader when we look at the sense of like a Go Tanks, but he's got one of the more interesting effects in the game when we get to his backside, which we'll get into here in a little bit. And so I think with the inclusion of some of the new stuff that he's gotten access to, the successor, he's got a rival card and everything like that, I think he can be really powerful moving forward. Now, as always, we stream over on twitch.tv/Shenron's Lair. Our schedule has updated. We're moving to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, so feel free to come check that out. We playtest all the decks that we profile here on the channel. We always have a really good time there as well. We also have a Discord, so if you're looking for great DBS decks conversation, if you're looking for deck building, if you're looking for rules, if you just want to come out and hang out, whatever it is, please feel free to check that out as well. The link will be down in the description, and let's go ahead and get on into the list. All right, looking at our leader, we've got Jiren on the front, and then we've got full power Jiren the Unstoppable on the back. On his front side, he is an auto. Choose one card in your life, add it to your hand. Whenever this card attacks, draw or choose one. You can draw one card, and this card gets plus 5k power for the duration of the turn, or you may choose up to one Universe 11 card in your hand with energy cost of 2 or less and play it. Awaken whenever your life is at 4 or less. You may draw one card, then choose up to one of your energy and switch it to active mode, and then flip this card over. And then on his backside, whenever this card attacks, draw one card, and this card gets plus 5k power for the duration of the turn. And then the main thing is an activate battle. Choose one card in your life, add it to your hand until the start of your next main phase. As long as you have a Universe 11 card in play, you don't take damage from your opponent's attack. That's the interesting effect that we're talking about. This basically means once you get over to that flip side, you have 3 cards you can take from life, and for 3 turns, you can't be killed by your opponent's attacks. Now, you can still be affected by skills, things that just burn you for damage. We got a lot of that in the new Set 10 stuff. That's also really important for Catastrophic Blow for the Invoker decks. That is something to pay attention to, but in terms of attacks and damage like that, you're not really worried about it. This also gets over leaders and different things like that. You're not worried about double strike, crit, quadruple strike, whatever it is. You're immune to all that. Naturally, whenever you're swinging, you're a 15k on the front, 20k on the back, so that's really powerful for applying really good pressure without having to combo cards. Sometimes the deck can get a little bit clunky in the combo area because we're running a lot of 110ks and multicolor cards and different things like that, but always having that access of that free 5k is really nice. We're able to draw multiple cards on the front, which is kind of where you want to be in a leader in the current state of the game, or he has the versatility to start playing cards from your hand, which is nice as well. Moving on into the actual deck list. So first up, we're using 4 of the SS Gogeta Dynamic Unison. So he's a spec 2-cost yellow Unison, 15k permanent. If all of your energy is in rest mode, your mono yellow leader card gets plus 5k power during your opponent's turn, which is really nice for us because sometimes we like to tap out a lot with this deck. And so getting that additional plus 5k boost is really good defensively because you don't always want to have to take the life in order to neg the damage for the turn. If you can get out of situations, it's much better for you to do that so you can save that life for those times when you really, really need it. And then he's an auto once per turn. Whenever your opponent activates an extra card, add a marker to this card, and so that's both on yours and your opponent's turn. So if ever they play a negate or whatever it is, he adds a marker so it keeps him around a little longer, and it lets you use his bottom effect a little easier, which we'll get into in a second. But for his +1 marker, it's an activate main. You may choose 2 yellow cards in your hand and discard them. If you do, draw 2 cards. This is really great cycling. We're able to draw a lot of cards to the deck due to this Unison, which keeps us from being super clunky with a lot of the cards that we're having to run using all of our different engines. So this helps us really thin things out, kind of get what we need to early. And then for his -4 activate main, during your opponent's next charge phase, your opponent can only switch up to 2 energy to active mode. So if you ever get in a situation where your opponent taps out their energy defensively or whatever it is, you can just use this and you can kind of keep them from really pushing you the next turn by playing a big bomb or whatever that might be. So really solid card. Next up, we're running 1 Coquette Unleashed. She's a 1-drop, a 1 green, 9k, excuse me. Activate main, if your leader card is a Universe 11 card and you have a Universe 11 card in play, you choose 1 card in your hand and place it in drop area, then play this card from your drop area, and you can't play Coquette Unleashed for the duration of the turn. So in order for our effects to work on the backside, we need to have Universe 11 cards in play. We're also running a lot of Successor, so being able to get multiple little cheap 1-drops or whatever it is in play is really important for us, and so this is just a way effectively for free to just get another 1-drop in play so we can go into our Successor chains and all that. We're able to pitch cards like the Great Ape Goku, which we'll get into a little bit, which everyone's familiar with, but that's an option for us as well, so we're cycling and then we can just pay the 2 to draw. So we're only running one of because we only ever really need to have one of her in play at a time, and because we can always get access to her due to our super combo or just her ability, it's fine just running a one of, I think. Next up, we've got 2 Topo, Gaze of Justice. He's a 1-drop, 1 green. If your leader card is a Universe 11 card, whenever you play this card or it's placed in a drop area from a battle area by a skill, your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and places it in the drop area, and then you can't activate Topo Gaze of Justice skill for the duration of the turn. This is just kind of mild hand destruction early in the game. It's a 1-drop, so we have a lot of ways to interact with it, getting it into play, whether it be with our leader or whatever it is. It's green, which is the same thing with the Coquette, because we do have a lot of awkward combo combinations, as we talked about earlier, so having 0-5Ks on board is really good for us, and it brings additional value by just being able to pitch a card, and whenever he's removed, typically by successor, you're able to make your opponent pitch another card, which is nice as well. Next up, we're running 3 Vuon Dynamite Blasters, so he's just a 1-drop 5K blocker. Pretty standard. I think blockers are going to be super important in the coming format. There's a lot of decks that you just really need to have some type of blocker presence on board. He's a 1-drop, he's yellow, he's a 0-5K, so there's a lot of things in the deck that kind of interact with him that way, and just kind of, again, as we talked about, just having access to 0-5Ks is really important, and just being a blocker is really solid. Next up, we're running 3 Kunchi Threaded Energy. He's a 1-drop 5K permanent. All Universe 11 cards with an energy cost of 2 or less in your battle area gain barrier. Again, this is just to protect all of our little 1-drops. We have a little 1-drop package, so he just kind of keeps them on board. We need them to sit on board because of our leader's backside ability again, and he just kind of helps do that for us. He's also 1-drop, so we have a lot of ways to get him into play if we need to. Next up, we have 4 Topo, Bestower of Justice. So he's a 2-drop, 1 green, 1 yellow, barrier 16K. And then permanent, increase the energy cost of this card by 2. So important information on him. He actually only costs 2 from hand. In the drop area, he only costs 2. So if any of your effects, like your leader effect, that play a 2-drop or less, he counts because he only gets that permanent once he's in play in the battle area, so you don't have to worry about things like that. So, for 2, he's actually a 4-drop, and so he's a great successor target. He's a 16K, so he can apply pressure, and then you can successor him. We can get into play pretty easily with our leader and just kind of other effects like that, so just a really solid addition. Next up, we've got 4 Dr. Gero, Progenitor of Terror. So there's kind of debate, at least with myself, what super combo I wanted to run. I knew I at least wanted some access to Dr. Gero because we are running a rival as well. I ultimately decided just to go for Gero, so I always have access to that, so I don't have to actually combo my battle cards off board or in hand to get a rival whenever I needed access to it. Being able to put cards in the drop for us is actually really nice as well, as we'll get into, whether it be like the Great Ape Goku, or we need to get any of these 1-drops into the drop so we can get those later with one of our cards. But so this is an auto. If your leader card is green or yellow, whenever you combo this card from your hand, choose the 1 green or yellow battle card with an energy cost of 4 or less from your deck and place it in your drop area, then shuffle your deck. Again, obviously we don't get the draw off of it. I could see situations where you may prefer to have some type of a split between this and I think the Coquette super combo, or maybe like a 3-1 split, but like I said, we are running a rival, so I do want access to this card, and we're able to get value because there are cards that we necessarily want in our drop, which is solid. Next up, we've got 3 Jiren, Pride of Universe 11, so he's a 2-drop, 1 yellow. Activate man, if your leader card is a Universe 11 card and you place this card in your drop area from your hand, choose up to 2 Universe 11 cards with energy cost of 1 in your drop area and play them with their skills negated for the turn. Again, since this is an activate main from hand, you can do this as many times as you want. Maybe you need to flood the board with a bunch of 1-drops so you can get up into successor numbers, whether it be 4 or whatever it is, just kind of finish off some math. You can just drop off a bunch of these and just flood your field with 1-drops, which is really, really solid. He's able to, get our Coquette, get our Topo, get our blocker, or get our Kunchi. Now, you do have to remember their skills are negated for the turn, so you wouldn't get like the discard effect off a Topo, but going into later turns, you're fine. But just being able to get maybe the blockers out or maybe get the Kunchis out, so on your opponent's turn, all your stuff as barrier is really nice. Next up, we're running 4 of the Great Ape Son Goku, Saiyan Instincts. Pretty much everyone knows this is. This is just good cycling, good draw. I know it's still a little bit pricey. The prices are gradually coming down, and they'll continue to gradually come down, so it will bring the cost of this deck down a little bit, but we are still on the pricier side of the deck, so if that's an issue, I totally understand. This card isn't like super necessary in the deck. You could totally just kind of throw these out, but I feel like if you're playing more of an optimal, list, you're wanting to have access to this card just because that draw power is so strong. It's also something, as we talked about, you can pitch it off the Go Tanks, you can get it in the drop off the Gero or whatever it is, you can discard it for the Coquette. So there's a lot of ways to get it in the drop effectively without actually having to like combo it or whatever like that. Next up, we've got 3 of the Marguerita. I believe that's how you say that. Tutor of Power. She's a 3-drop, 2 yellow, 19K barrier. Permanent, if you have a yellow unison card with a specified cost of 2 in play, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1, so she becomes a 2-drop as long as Go Tanks is in play. or Gogeta, excuse me. And then auto, whenever this card attacks, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode, and it can't be switched to active mode until the start of your next turn. So this is a really good control type card. She's a 19k, so she can apply a lot of pressure. We can get her out early. Being a 3-drop is somewhat relevant to add up to our numbers for Successor, so she's really solid that way. Just a lot of good value out of her. And next up, we've got 1 Swift Retaliation Cooler, so he's a 3-drop for 3 yellow. He's a counter. If your leader card is yellow, negate the counter and play this card. Auto, whenever you play this card, draw 1 card. Then if you have 6 or more cards in rest mode, draw 1 more card. This is really good as we get into kind of our win condition, which we'll get into a little bit later. Just having access to the counter effect is really solid. Plus, he draws us a card, so he places himself in hand. If we, whatever reason, have 6 or more cards in rest mode, whether that be energy, battle cards, whatever it is, we're able to draw an additional card, so he's a +1, which is solid too. We're only running a 1 of because we only really never ever need to get that effect off once to win the game. Next up, we've got 2 surprise attack Frieza. He's a 4-drop for 1 green, 15k crit. Auto, activate this skill when your opponent's battle card is KO'd. If surprise attack Frieza is not in play in your battle area, you may play this card from your hand. This is really good. The main important aspect of this card is a free 4-drop as long as we KO something, which we have a handful of ways to do that. So it works really great with our Successor numbers. 15k crit is really good pressure, and so all of it is really solid. Because we can only have one in play at a time due to its skill, we're only running 2 because we don't really need to see like a ton of access to it. But throughout the game, it's just a really solid. Next up, we have 3 Belmont, double devastation. So he's a 4-drop, 2 green, 20k blocker. Activate main, choose up to 3 choose 3 of your battle cards, place them in their zone or drop area, then play this card from your hand. And then auto, whenever you play this card, choose up to one of your opponent's battle card and KO it. So this works really good with the surprise attack freeze that we just talked about. We can just like sack a bunch of our 1-drops, bring this guy out, pop something, then play the Frieza. Now we have 2 4-drops in play for no energy, so that's really solid. Being a blocker is nice. He's a 20k, so he can apply pressure. So there's a lot of really good stuff there. Next up, we've got 4 Dispo Unprecedented Speed. He's a 4-drop for a green-yellow barrier. Successor for 1 yellow, so as long as you sack up to things that cost 4, you can put him in play. And then auto, if your leader is a Universe 11 card whenever you play this card, or it is replaced in your drop area from your battle area by a skill, draw 1 card. So this works really solid. One of the best plays to do it is off like this Topo, Bestower of Justice. You just Successor him out for 1, you draw a card, you can swing. Now if you have multiple yellow energy, you can do it again with an additional Dispo. Then you can just start Successor chaining off Dispos. And so you're able to just, draw 2 cards per Dispo, which is really nice. And then he's also a 4-drop, so it works getting multiple 4-drops in a play for some of our Successor things, so I'm just really solid there. Next up, we've got 4 Grade 8 Bardock Raiders Warcry. So he's a 4-drop, 2 yellow, double strike. Auto, if your leader card is yellow at the end of a battle in which you combo with this card from your hand, play this card. And then auto, whenever you play this card, draw 1 card, then choose up one of your opponent's battle cards and switch it to rest mode. Just another really solid addition. If you're running yellow, you're probably having some access to Raiders Warcry because it is really strong. It is a 2-cost combo, but it's a 10k at least, and then it can effectively negate an additional attack by tapping something down. Plus you get the card draw, which is nice, and then on your turn, you have not only a 4-drop, which is good as we've talked about with our Successor, that 4 is just a really solid number, but it's a 20k double striker, so it can apply a lot of pressure. It's really great with dealing with unison cards. So just really solid. Next up, we've got 2 Super Saiyan Broly All-Out Assault. So he's a 6-drop for 2 green, 2 yellow. He's a 25k. He arrivals for a green, yellow, and then auto whenever you play this card, or when this card is switched to active mode by a skill during your turn. Choose 1. Choose 1 battle card with an energy cost greater than or equal to your opponent's current energy and KO it. Or draw 1 card, then choose up to one of your opponent's cards and switch it to active mode. So this is really good because you can just tap down one of your opponent's energy if you need to, which is solid. And then he's just a 25k, which is nice like that. But he's also a 6-drop, so we have other ways to get into our big Successor chain. We can get multiple 6-drops out. We can get like a 6, a 4, and a 2, whatever that may be. Having access to him on arrival is really solid. He's just kind of a big body to deal with as well. Next up, we've got 2 Topo Mortality Surpass. So he's a 6-drop for 2 green, 2 yellow, barrier, Successor for green and yellow, and then auto whenever you play this card or it is placed in your drop area from your battle area by a skill, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and negate that card's skills, then KO it. So this is really good removal for us. We're able to, pop something with barrier, which is really difficult to do for a lot of decks, just having access to that. One of the really big target cards for this is the Invoker Vegeta. Out of the Invoker deck, you can just Successor this really easily, get it out, pop something, and then also whenever you remove it due to Successor, you're able to pop something else as he leaves the field, which is nice. He's also just kind of a barrier Universal 11, so it works with our leader that way as well. Next up, we've got 2 Jiren Alien Power. So he's a 6-drop for a green and a yellow. He's a blocker, and then he has a rival for green and yellow. Then activate main once per turn. If your leader card is a Universe 11 card, increase the energy cost of this card by 3 for the turn. So traditionally, he's just a 6-drop that costs 2, which again, 6 is a good number for us. And then if we need to, he's a 3-drop, or a 9-drop, excuse me, which doesn't necessarily make the math much easier for what we need to for Successor, but there are certain situations where it's easier to have like a 9 and just a couple, like a 3-drop, like with the Marguerita or something like that to get to our 12. But he's a 25k blocker, which is solid. You can just kind of Successor him into play, so that's always good to make sure you always have access to your leader's backside ability to have a Universe 11 in play, which is nice. And he's just kind of a big body. Next up, we've got 2 Belmont and Marguerita, a Universe 11 Destroyer and Angel. It's a 7-drop for 2 green, 2 yellow, 30k dual attack Successor for 2 green and a yellow. And then auto, if you have 5 or more energy, whenever you play this card, your opponent chooses 3 cards in their hand and places them in their drop area. And then auto, whenever this card is removed from your battle area by an opponent's skill, choose any number of your battle cards in your drop area with an energy cost of 2 or less, for which the total cost adds up to 4 or less, and then play them with their skills negated for the turn. This is just a really good way if we need to like get rid of our opponent's hand. Maybe we're going for like a kill turn or something like that. We can just Successor it into play. Being a 7-drop is a little awkward with our numbers. That's why we're only running 2 of these. But having access to a big 30k dual attacker is nice. And then if they ever have to deal with it and kill it, then you're able to get your board built back up with low-cost card. And then finally, we are running for our SCR SClino Unspeakable Abomination. So he's our 12-drop. 3 green, 3 yellow, quadruple strike, ultimate, deflect, energy exhaust, Successor. And then auto, if you have 5 or more energy, whenever you play this card, choose up to 3 cards in your opponent's hand, place them in their drop area, and this card gains dual attack for the duration of the turn. This is really our kill condition. We're kind of working our way up to here. We talked about we've got multiple 4-drops, so we can get into play relatively easy to get out of this pretty quickly. We can get to 6-drops in play, or any kind of combination, whatever we need to get up to 12, which is nice. We have a lot of easy paths to do that. And then as long as we get to 5 energy, we can drop this for free. So, rip cards out of their hand, swing, and if they have the negate, then obviously we have our cooler in order to just, get rid of that negate, counter. So just quadruple strike dual attack by itself is really strong. It's really hard to deal with. It's a really kind of great way to close out the deck. But anyway, guys, that is it. Let us know what you think about the deck down below, and we will see y'all next time.